no longer accepted as a truism that if you want peace, you prepare for war. If you want peace, you prepare for peace. And if you want peace, you protect your wilderness areas. You don't use them as bomb sites and military training grounds and places to use depleted uranium, which could poison the atmosphere for hundreds of thousands of years.
Society as a whole has legalised organised murder, and it's called glorification, glorifying war, glorifying killing, and who loves it is little John Howard, who clearly needs Viagra, I think. He's got a case of acute missile envy.
I think Australians have every reason in the world to oppose these war games. This is actually the biggest military operation of war games in the world.
I'm really excited to be standing with all the people in America and all the people in Australia who are against the war, which is the majority in both those countries.
I can't think of many examples where Australian and US forces have done actions together which haven't been to do with attacking and invading sovereign nations.
Just talking about like the military build-up that's happening under Howard, you know, doubled the budget since they got in for the military. The message that it sends to all the countries around the region, you know, don't fuck with Australia, we're coming to get you.
I'm coming to Talisman Sabre because I believe that integrating our military with the US and facilitating US aggression is counterproductive to human well-being.
I think it's really important that we're saying no to these games and saying no to the idea that we need these armies to be occupying Iraq and Afghanistan when in fact it's these occupations which are causing the violence and devastation there.
I'm just here as one person to join in with others to make a stand.
We just got off the bus and we saw these 3 US soldiers outside Macca's here. Everyone wanted to go up to them and give them leaflets.
We gave them some of the material that we've got, which has like website links to Iraq veterans against the war, and we gave them videos about army resistance during the Vietnam War.
We basically just, you know, gently questioned them about their position on the war and what their level of involvement is. And 2 of them have been to Iraq. They're truck drivers and they do respect that there is a lot of violence and destruction going on, but that quote, that's life. It is really interesting to kind of hear that rationale from people who have seen the violence firsthand in Iraq.
The guy who was most engaging with us promised that he would watch The Ground Truth and agreed with some of the points that the Iraq Veterans Against the War had on the material.
I think there's a huge hangover from the Vietnam War, where there's all these stories about soldiers being spat on by protesters and things like that. I think it's really positive that a lot of soldiers can see that people who are against the war actually care for their physical and mental well-being.
On Friday night, we set up our tents and then we went into Yeppoon for the public meeting.
Aloha, and just so you know, the last words that I said were Ia Kavaila, Hevai Eola Noe. Here are the waters of life that are here in Shoalwater.
In the Australian, which is Rupert Murdoch's newspaper, there are ads for all the weapons firms. Tenex, which is the biggest weapons firm in the Southern Hemisphere, works with Lockheed Martin, which is the biggest weapons manufacturer in the world. Ad after ad on how we're going to kill people. This exercise here is about killing. Why do we go along with this?
We need to do something about drought. We need to do something about our waterways. We need to do something about global warming. We need to do something about public health and hospitals. But we spend $55 million every single bloody day on the military.
What I'm watching in our homeland of Guahan is another wave of dispossession. The atrocities that have been committed against the indigenous of our islands are merely a sign of what will happen to everyone if we do not stand together united.
Got stopped at a checkpoint about 12 kilometres out from the actual main gate to the base. Took a decision that we were going to walk the rest of the way.
What's going on here is that the US and Australian militaries are getting together for joint exercises. I think there's about 30,000 troops all up, most of which are Americans. They got aircraft carriers, submarines.
On each Trident submarine are 24 missiles. On each missile are 8 hydrogen bombs, 100 times larger than the Hiroshima bomb. America's got 5,500 hydrogen bombs on hair trigger alert in their silos and in their submarines and on their aircraft carriers, here, ready to be launched with the press of the button by that not very intelligent man, George Bush.
What they're doing is preparing for what they call regional contingencies, which are military speak for problems that the Australian government might experience in the Pacific region. They've got Australian corporate interests in those countries, so it's important that the Australian military is there to back up those corporate interests when things start to get a little shaky in those countries, when the people sort of may rise up and sort of want to nationalise their industries. What we're protesting is against Australian imperialism just as much as American imperialism.
We've got Pine Gap in the middle of Australia, which is orchestrating a killing in Iraq, orchestrating the killing in Afghanistan. It's orchestrating a first strike nuclear war against Russia. It's orchestrating a missile defence system, which is totally provocative, because when America sets up missile defences, China and Russia say, okay, we'll just build more nuclear weapons. We're on the edge of nuclear annihilation, much more so than we were at the height of the Cold War.